Okay, I have something that I used to teach to some of my students a long time ago, and that is the scarcity mindset. And the reason why I taught it to people was because it directly affects how much money that you get and what ends up happening as a result. So I'm going to go through a couple different examples to show you like just how the scarcity mindset affects you and also how it could affect your real estate endeavors. So for the first example, I have a house that I just sold recently. This house that I sold for about $450,000. No, $475. I just thought of it. So I sold the house for $475, and the buyer was just the biggest douche of a buyer you could probably have. Now, something that I want to keep in mind here, or at least that I want to share, is that I have a partner on this deal. Now, my partner, this is the very first time she did a real estate transaction. I was really excited for her. She brought the money to the table, and I was the one that brought the knowledge, the experience, and then all of the workers that I have. So the way in which we partnered is that she took what she was good at, which was getting the money. I took what I was good at, and we did a house together. We split the profit. It was great. Now, because this was her first real estate deal, a lot of the money that she got was from family members, it was some of her own personal savings, however she could get it. For me, since I've been doing a number of real estate transactions, I was just thinking like, okay, it's just another house. Well, fast forward to the very end and we get this buyer. Now, from the very beginning, I can tell what somebody is like. Part of that is because in a prior career, I did a lot of dating coach assistance. Now, with that, I learned a lot about people. And with this particular buyer, this buyer is one of those people who just wants to squeeze every last drop that you can out of you. Now, the reason why that's a problem is not because he doesn't deserve to try to get as much as he can. I mean, everybody does. But in real estate and in typical business, the way that it works is everything is a bit of a give and take. I do a little bit, you do a little bit, we both meet in the middle, everybody walks away happy. This person is one in particular where they're going to try to do whatever they can because even after they get the entire world, it's still not enough. Here's an example of what ended up happening. So we had a transaction in which we had a code violation that's on the house. Now, this code violation in particular was one that was on the south side of my property. Apparently, there was some trash that was starting to be collected. And because that trash was being collected, the code enforcement officer, who I actually got to know over time because he drove around the neighborhood quite a bit, so I had some time to talk to him. He's like, hey, Jay, you got some trash on the side of your property. Can you get it cleaned up? You know what I realized also? This is a very like millennial phone call. I actually just found this out because now everyone picks up the phone like this. Anyway, I digress. So he called me and he's like, hey, Jay, can you clean up some of this trash that's on the side of your property? I'm like, yeah, sure. Got a trash bag, threw everything away, knotted it up, threw it in the garbage. And I called him. I was like, hey, bro, I got some pics, took some photos, sent it over to him. He's like, looks great, exactly what I need. So what ended up happening now is right before closing, we sent it to the title company, or the title company had ordered a lien search. Now, a lien search is something that pulls up all of the information about the property. It tells you about past mortgages. It tells you about overdue water bills. It tells you about electricity, all of that stuff. Anyway, so the lien search comes back and my title attorney calls me. She's like, hey, Jay, you have a violation on your property for trash. I was like, a violation for trash? That can't be, because the only thing that was trashed was about 2 months ago when the code enforcement officer called me and I cleaned it up that day and sent him proof that I did it. She's like, well, I need you to call down because this is a problem. We can't close because right now it says you have an outstanding violation. Lo and behold, I called him up. He's like, Jay, I'm sorry. I was supposed to close it out. I meant to, but my boss came down on me. He said, we need to do another violation because somebody kept throwing away stuff on the side of your yard. It just kind of went on and on. Now, the challenge with it is that this part of the property, people walk by a lot. You get vagrants. You get people who are just don't care. They litter. They throw their bottles on the side and it collects in the side of the yard. Now, you can't really stop it unless you're outside there with a sign picketing from people telling you to not throw trash away on the side of the grass. But because it is a part of the property that I have to maintain, it is still my responsibility. So therefore, code enforcement had to issue the violation. But again, they didn't tell me other than the phone call that I had a couple months back. So now that we have this violation pop up, I find out about it the same time the buyer finds out about it. Now, why is this a problem? Well, remember we said this is about scarcity mindset, and this is why it all is going to come together. So before we get into that, when it came down to the violation, the buyer calls up, talks to the title attorney, and they're like, we don't like the fact, because him and his wife, we don't like the fact that we just found out about this violation. This is absolutely terrible. The seller lied to us. He's a liar. He's a deceitful person. And I'm just like, whoa, bro, I found out too. I didn't even know. I thought I had it taken care of back when I got the phone call. Well, the buyer now is like, well, I deserve $5,000 for this inconvenience. Absolute bullshit. But hey, listen, this guy, I knew early on in the contract period what I was dealing with, so I'm not even surprised that he asked for this money. Now, typically, because I'm not somebody that has a scarcity mindset, I'd be like, well, go fuck yourself. I'm going back on the market, because I'm not gonna play the game where I'm gonna allow you to tell me what I need to do to satisfy your needs. Unless it's mutually beneficial, I can't do anything for you. Because I know that the price that I sold you the house at was a great price. It was such a large deduction that you got a great deal out of it. And I'm happy for you. I'm glad you got a great deal. I was excited to move on because myself and my partner also wanted to move on from the transaction. Now, because of the fact that he came out with guns blazing and wanted this money, my partner, she is now clearly distraught because I told her about what ended up happening. She's now thinking we're not going to close. Remember, this is her first real estate transaction. The market is coming down. The cost of the renovation went up. So all things now, numbers wise, don't look too good. So because of that, she's now thinking that, oh, I'm going to lose my money and I borrowed a lot of it. And she's clearly upset. Now, for me, again, I would not allow somebody like this to take advantage of me if it's just me by myself, but my allegiance is to her and I need to be a great partner. So sometimes that scarcity mindset doesn't even apply to you, but actually applies to the person that you're aligned with. Maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's your friend, maybe it's your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it is. But it does have a direct impact on you because it affects the decision that you make. Well, what ended up happening was I told my partner, hey, listen, all my allegiance is to you, all my dedication is to you, and making sure that you're made whole in this transaction. So we're gonna give this asshole $5,000 so that we can move on and we can close on this deal. Now, after the deal closed, I was really excited because I was at least able to help out my partner to get back all of her money. All the money that I made on the deal, even though I did well, I wasn't really concerned with, because at the end of the day, making money in real estate, you guys are all going to be a part of. And it's just another house, it's just another deal. But the people that you align with, the people that you're closest to, you always want to make sure you maintain good relationships, because that's more important than anything else. And the only way to do that is to make sure that that scarcity mindset doesn't affect you to where it'll also affect the person that you're connected to. Here's another example of that. So remember when I said I used to teach some dating workshops? Well, here's an example of that in dating. I had a student of mine who told me about a girl that he was once dating. And this is something that I used to teach called rubber band theory. And what rubber band theory is, when one side pulls really hard, the opposite side also comes together. Now, this isn't always the case, but it happens quite often. So here's exactly what ended up happening. He was being somebody that was going out of his way, doing all that he could to make sure that this girl was satisfied, pleased, and she got everything that she wanted. And I told him early on, I'm like, listen, you need to be careful, because if you start going so far out of your way, you're going to start getting taken advantage of. People are going to start walking all over you. And it's not just with that girl. This is just people in general. Because something that I've realized, whether it's real estate, whether it's relationships, whether it's anything, if you give somebody the rope, they're going to take it. Because a lot of people are opportunists. So with that opportunist, you're going to get somebody just like this girl. She was incredibly ungrateful. There was literally no gratitude about anything. She actually had the opposite. It was more entitlement. She was almost saying to him, you didn't do enough, or I need more. And he's like, man, I'm going out of my way. I'm doing everything possible. Well, how is it I'm never enough for this girl? One day over dinner, they end up having a little bit of a tussle in terms of like an argument about what happened or about what transpired. And he was just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm tired of how ungrateful you are. I'm tired of how you treat me. I'm sick of it and I'm done. I want nothing to do with you. Took his money, put it on the table, walked away from her, blocked her number, blocked her email, changed the locks in his house. This guy was going out. He's like, I want nothing to do with you. Lo and behold, a couple days later, this girl was texting and calling him like crazy, but it wasn't going through because she was blocked. So what she ended up doing, she's like looked up his Instagram, looked up his friends' accounts, and was messaging all of them to ask how she can come back and show her forgiveness for how she's treated this guy and all the things that she's done. Now, why is that powerful? Because think about it. When it comes to that rubber band theory, when it comes to that scarcity mindset, he pulled so hard in one direction that she now followed back in the opposite. Same thing happens sometimes where, let's say, as a guy and he cheats on you, and the girl's like, you know what? I don't deserve this. I'm done. I'm through with the relationship. I'm through with how you treat me. I'm through with how you make me feel. And she walks away. Same thing. Pulls so hard in one direction, the opposite now comes back. And a lot of times, it's more just recognizing the shit treatment that they've been giving you, and also them coming to the realization that, damn, I didn't deserve to treat them in the way that they did. The reason why this is incredibly powerful is because when you have strong boundaries and when you don't have that scarcity mindset, you're willing to walk away. And in instances, even for mine, right? Like I would have been willing to walk away just because of my partner. I ended up staying. But I do think that is incredibly powerful because you're going to realize that power always belongs to the person that cares the least. And that person that cares the least is the one that usually is the one that leads that rubber band, or is the one that is by default not having that scarcity mindset. How also this translates into real estate as well is because you're going to find in situations where you tell people, I'm done, I'm not moving on, they're going to end up coming back anyway. Same thing. You're going to pull hard in one way, they're going to come back in the opposite, and they're going to want to continue the deal. And I'll give you an example of that right now. So I had somebody, this is about 2 years ago, where I had a buyer. I was the buyer, and the seller told me that they were not going to be doing anything more for the transaction other than the minor repairs that I said needed to be done. Well, it turns out that they also had a violation on their house, completely different property. Remember, the violation I mentioned before is a property that was just sold a couple weeks ago. The one that I'm mentioning right now, this is from several years ago. They had a violation on their property because they didn't have a rental license. That not having that rental license put a $25,000 fine and attached it to the property. I came back to the seller and I was like, hey, listen, you've got $25,000 fine that I'm now going to have to be responsible for. And this price that we agreed to doesn't work because I said I would take it with a clear title. And you can't have a violation of that number in order to have a clear title. We're like, you know what? Well, I can't do anything for you. You're going to take it or you're going to leave it. I'm like, no problem. I'm going to leave it. And I want nothing to do with you. Here's the problem that seller had. They were going through foreclosure and the bank was about to take over the property. Now they had the fire under their feet and they were desperate to sell because they had about 2 weeks to get to the closing table. They then came back to me. Not only did they also give me the $25,000 credit as an apology, they also gave me a $10,000 credit on top of that. So because of how hard I pulled and because of how little I cared, and I truly did not care, because the last thing I was going to do is take on a property, $25,000, and all of the other things I have to do to fix it up and get it market ready, and then be like, I'm just not going to take that chance. It's just not worth it for me. So again, it was truly me not caring. There's no scarcity at all. And as a result, when I pulled so hard in one direction, he came back harder, gave me the $25,000 credit, and then blessed another $10,000 on top of it. Incredibly powerful when that mindset isn't there and you're not attached to it. So if you guys are also looking to get more information just like this and learn about the scarcity mindset and how it affects you, as well as some other real estate topics, please subscribe to the channel and like this video for more content just like this. And until next time, catch the next video. Thank you.